It's no secret that Shadow is one of, if not the most popular characters in the series. Shadow is a character that's cool factor has endured the test of time. Even though he's the most basic favorite to have, I legitimately couldn't pick any other character in the series as my favorite other than Shadow. That is, until I made this video. Now why would I open this video talking about Shadow? Well, for good reason. As I said, Shadow's cool factor has lasted beyond his original inception. Cool was always the MO of Sonic as a franchise. Sonic himself was considered the peak of cool back when he was created. But of course, times change. What's perceived as cool is constantly changing with the social climate. So Shadow was born reigning in that era's vision of cool. He was a more gritty and edgy type of cool. Not just figuratively, but literally, having sharper quills and darker colors that made his design distinct from Sonic's. A stoic and cold personality with a sharp wit. The art for Shadow and Adventure 2 is still raw even to this day. However, Shadow's cool factor did begin to waver after his own game's rough edges. This is where we get to Silver. As the year after Shadow's own game, we would receive a game that introduces a new leading Hedgehog to the roster. I can't say definitively the intent behind Silver was to usher in a new era of cool, since the game literally came out a year later, irrespective of the reception of Shadow's game. But I'd say Silver was definitely an attempt to capture something new for the series. I mean, he debuted in a game that had the audacity to just be called Sonic the Hedgehog, implying it was meant to be a new face for the series. His theme, Dreams of an Absolution, even has parts of Green Hill Zone in it as a leitmotif. Silver is a character from the future. Importantly, one that's been left in dystopian ruin, which has left him with no choice but to go back in time, intending to prevent the disaster that caused this ruin and restore peace to his own timeline. Yeah, so he's just Trunks. They even directly reference the similarity. Considering the fact Trunks is considered cool, I can see Silver as an attempt to usher in a new style of cool for this series in the same vein. In terms of how Silver operates in gameplay, he's actually quite different from Sonic and Shadow. While Silver's speed can match them, it isn't his main calling. His psychokinetic abilities are what actually put him on par with them in power. This unique power sets him apart in a way that wouldn't really lead to him being compared to the other two. Though, unfortunately for Silver, his debut was in the infamous Sonic 06, a game that discussion of has been muddied over time. But the objective truth of the matter is, the game released in an unacceptable state, hampering any positive perception that could have been afforded to Silver from that game. First impressions aren't everything, but they can very well end up being so if a greater initiative isn't taken going forward. And, well, Silver would have 2 more playable appearances in the PSP Rivals spin-off series, which... Why is this not running very well? What? Encoding overloaded. Consider turning down video settings or using a faster encoding preset. Yeah, so the rival games don't work so good. They also aren't very good in the first place either. What with the pseudo voice acting and flat story in the first game. Why is there like minimal voice acting? Good thing this was the second time Silver got a spotlight. He's been left to barely be acknowledged after these games. Considering Sonic 06's reputation and how he's directly associated with it, his reason for being is called into question. Why is he still around? They aren't doing anything unique with him as a character, and he hasn't exactly played a prominent role in any story since. He shows up and forces to do nothing. It's like they can't decide if they even want to acknowledge him or not. Silver's existence is an enigma at this point in time. He has been left with an estranged reputation. The fact Silver is included in every Sonic racing game, but excluded from every Sonic and Sega All-Star racing game, says something that I want. It kind of spells out how little they actually care about Silver. Look at all these known Sega All-Stars. Unlike Silver. To be honest, when I did a poll to see who was people's favorite Hedgehog, I wasn't expecting Silver to be second, let alone be the first to get a vote cast for them either. I was unaware he even had fans, and this is because I didn't really see much to even be a fan of from a general perspective. Like I said, he's had little chance to even shine to begin with, so I found it hard to believe people were more than indifferent towards him. However, with the advent of Project 06 and the ability to just watch cutscenes on YouTube, you can actually still gain the Silver experience without combusting into flames playing a shoddily made game. Not exactly an accessible means, but it's still there to work with. In terms of gameplay unique to him, Silver is actually really fun to play as. His gliding's very forgiving if you're bad at the game, or in my case, if the game becomes near unplayable because OBS is a wonderful piece of recording software. Yeah. Can I get like 10 seconds with a decent frame rate, please? Nope. So I did it in 2 tries once I stopped recording. Anyways, let's get back to it. Despite playing only the first stage, even with technical setbacks, I found him really fun and satisfying to control. The only legitimate issues I had with his control is that he would seemingly accelerate at the literal worst time possible. I'm being very careful. Oh, yeah! Silver! Thank you! Oh no. Oh, okay, we're good. Oh, chill! He fucking accelerated! He also felt a little too slippery to control even with OBS closed. Although that just might be an issue with how my game was running in general. While I didn't find the segments of bringing up platforms or standing stationary in a marked area to use his powers engaging, I found his general gameplay usage of his powers extremely fun. Silver doesn't have a homing attack. His combat is entirely based around his psychokinetic powers, grabbing objects and being able to hurl them with serious force. Just flinging giant objects at enemies feels so satisfying. You can collect a wall of different objects and just rapid fire pelt enemies with them. It's great. You can even use them to do environmental damage.
I can wipe them out if I hit that pipe, right?
I didn't even need to hit the pipe. There are also enemy attacks that you can grab with his psychokinesis to throw back at them. Overall, his combat is pretty enjoyable. Other than combat, Silver's psychokinesis can be used to glide. This gliding can let you do platforming confirmation, jumping, then holding his kinesis glide to make sure you're above the platform so you don't fall. Since it's also a glide, you can use it to clear long gaps. He can even use it to teleport around if you double tap, but doing so will expend all his energy. While you can use his psychokinesis to raise platforms, there are points where you can just glide across without doing that, which is an extremely rewarding aspect of design to his stages, being able to take it slow or fast depending on the player, actually giving you the ability to skip sections if you're confident in your control and knowledge of the stage. Silver's other stages imply a focus around puzzles. While some of these are questionable, for his combat it feels engaging, and the fact you can breeze through them if you're knowledgeable about the stage makes it all the more satisfying and rewarding, although its current implementation feels a bit too much of a pace breaker for gameplay. Overall, Project 06 provides a glimpse at how solid a foundation Silver's gameplay can be, how it manages to perfectly fit in with the series while providing a new avenue for gameplay. Unfortunately though, his only other playable entries were the Rivals games, which doesn't really make too much unique use out of him in gameplay. As a character, Silver stands out from Shadow and Sonic greatly. His design is a direct contrast with Shadow's, being a bright white-like silver with luminescent teal coloring on his attire. He also has black coloring around his eyes similar to how Shadow has red, though his is more like eyeliner. Characteristics of his design distinct from both Sonic and Silver is that he has quills on the front of his head, with only 2 big quills in the back of his head. He also has a scarf-like tuft of hair. This design makes him stand out distinctly between the other 2, even as silhouettes. In terms of personality, Silver stands out from the other 2 severely. While Sonic and Shadow may make a snarky remark or retort with sharp wit, Silver will just bluntly call you an idiot and laugh in your face. This bluntness also extends to his general priorities. He has an objective-first mentality, which is just as harmful a mindset as it is a helpful one to him, leaving him to naively believe what he's told without attempting to understand the full picture, bearing a shoot-first, ask-questions-later mentality, as well as actively working against others rather than with them. In 06, he just unquestioningly believes Mephiles about Sonic being the Iblis trigger right away. Multiple times he confronts Sonic and entirely neglects Elise, the girl with him, being kidnapped. Every time. Just doesn't question a woman screaming as she's snagged away. Multiple times. Silver the Hedgehog. It's only through Amy that Silver stops and starts to question things. In Rivals, Silver's one-track mind displays just how unsociable he can be, outright ignoring characters like Knuckles to focus on his objective. Despite becoming friends with Sonic after the events of the first Rivals game, Silver shows little interest in catching up during the second, shirking him off and instead focusing on his mission, not thinking to ask for info or help. In 06, he gets stopped by Amy when he spots Sonic. Despite losing sight of his objective as a result of Amy, he doesn't really get mad. He even decides to help her out, displaying that Silver is still a caring person when he's not honed in on his mission. But it's clearly something he struggles with balancing. This is the general baseline for Silver as a character. However, he's sort of in an estranged position for a reason other than just 06's reputation. His continuity is a little confusing since the end of 06 has things be reset. Between Rivals and Generations, they can't seem to keep a straight story on what Silver's deal is, so I'm just going to start talking about Silver as he's represented in each continuity. That way I'm not constantly jumping around between the continuities. Starting with his 06 iteration, Silver hails from a future that is in complete ruin, a world utterly ravaged by flames with no sign of life or hope, with Blaze as his only companion, a character who further contributes to the continuity confusion. Blaze was from a different dimension entirely in the Rush games, so what's she doing here? And why does she nor Sonic seem to recognize each other? Yeah, this doesn't exactly explain anything. It's just an excuse to explain away forgetfulness when it came to writing. It doesn't really help that Silver is still associated with the future, and presents another inconsistency nightmare in Rivals that we'll get to. After Mephiles sends him back in time, Silver stops gobsmacked by the beauty of the world before the disaster of Iblis, in awe at the sight of vibrant green trees, marveling at the sun setting on a beach. While likely more so due to the fact Silver hasn't been able to see these things in his world, it does make Silver come across as someone who loves nature, being brief moments where he stops to appreciate the scenery and actually take his mind off from his objective, freeing his mind in the serene peace of nature. Silver eventually confronts Sonic with the intent to kill him. However, he's stopped by Amy, who he'd become friends with earlier. Silver tells Amy that he has to kill Sonic or the disaster of Iblis will come to pass. But she tells him she doesn't believe that, and even if she did, she'd still choose Sonic over saving the world. A proclamation that is going to have deeper ramifications to Silver's character later on. This causes Silver to reflect on his objective. As far as Silver knew until now, Sonic is the cause of the disaster, so he very likely assumed going in that he was after someone evil. After this encounter though, his perspective on the matter has changed. Instead of killing an objective evil, he's forced to grapple with the morality of sacrificing a single person for the survival of everyone else. Silver looks off towards the sea to ease his mind and get lost in thought. Blaze then shows up and he asks her if it's the right thing to do sacrificing someone else, to which she says she doesn't know if it's right, but it's their only option. The next time Silver encounters Mephiles, he questions him, but doesn't really pressure him to provide any answers. Instead, being told once again that it's his only option, so it doesn't matter. Pursuing Sonic once again before being thrown off guard by Shadow. Once Shadow tells Silver he's being tricked by Mephiles, he doesn't really push back on it. This can be seen as him being naive enough to just believe someone else now, but I think it's deeper than that. After not being fully convinced if what he was doing was right in the first place, he's willing to believe in something that is, something that affirms his own optimism. Despite being convinced he has no choice, the moment he's presented with this chance at hope, he seizes it immediately. Silver is a character defined by hope and optimism, blindly chasing hope in the form of believing Mephiles and that the future can be changed, but being guided by his optimism that doing the right thing can make all the difference. Earlier on, Silver and Blaze came across a Chaos Emerald. Blaze told Silver that Chaos Emeralds are like a good luck charm and that they can turn thoughts into power, a means of turning hope itself into power. the very thing Silver has been looking for this entire time. With that Chaos Emerald and the power of Chaos Control, both Silver and Shadow go back in time to learn the truth about Mephiles and Iblis. After witnessing the true origin of Iblis, Silver and Shadow use Chaos Control once again to return to the present. But before leaving with Shadow, Silver stops to look at young Elise. Having witnessed her father's death during this incident, he recalls what Blaze said about the Chaos Emeralds, the ability to turn hope into power. Displaying just how compassionate a person Silver truly is, he decides to leave his Chaos Emerald behind with Elise, choosing to give hope to someone else who needs it, hoping to himself that it will protect her. I almost teared up at this scene. This is Sonic 06. Silver heads back to the present to help Sonic save Elise. But after they fail to do that, we actually see a moment where Silver shines over Sonic, as Sonic has immediately fallen and given in to despair. Silver is the one to immediately suggest that they can still change things, deciding that the two of them could use Chaos Control to go back and prevent Elise's death. Sonic is set on handling that task alone. So Silver decides to return to his timeline with Blaze and defeat Iblis once and for all. After quelling Iblis, Silver then attempts to seal Iblis away, but is unable to. Blaze then decides to do it herself and asks Silver to send her away to a different dimension to seal Iblis away once and for all. He tells her that he can't possibly do it, so she takes it upon herself to seal them both away herself. As she fades from the world, the skies begin to clear and the flames of disaster subside. A brighter future is born, but it's one without Blaze in it. Silver is left alone. Throughout everything, Silver was a constant beacon of hope and optimism, but without friends, that's all he has. This moment leaves him to finally realize what Amy meant when she said she'd choose Sonic over the world. He saved the future, but lost his reason for wanting that future in the first place. It's a bleak and tragic irony, and it's the last thing we see of his existing timeline from this continuity. Despite the hopeless state Silver was left in, after Solaris causes time itself to unravel in the final story, and Sonic is left presumed dead, Silver is the one to steel himself and still hold on to hope that they can stop Solaris. It shows just how powerful his optimism truly is, even till the very end. He still manages to be a source of hope for others, even if all seems hopeless. 06 ends with the events of the game being reset, and we're left only to wonder what becomes of Silver. And the answer is unclear. In Rivals, Silver shows up in the present timeline pursuing someone. This someone being
Eggman Nega!
Yeah, so things are more confusing now.
Eggman Nega!
Was also a part of the Rush continuity with Blaze. So I assume this was an attempt to try and further mend the continuities together, but Silver still claims to be from the future and not a different dimension. So the explanation is that
Eggman Nega!
is from the future, but for some reason just decided to lie about being Eggman's Soul Dimension counterpart. So the entire dated concept of his naming convention doesn't even make sense anymore, but he still goes by it for some reason. Also, now that he's officially considered a future descendant of Eggman, that means this man is reproduced. Horrifying. Throughout the first game, Silver pursues
Eggman Nega!
dismissing talking with others as he focuses only on stopping him. We still manage to see a bit of his kindness shine through, with him thanking Shadow and Knuckles for helping him pursue.
Eggman Nega!
While Silver is naive, that doesn't mean he's a complete idiot. He's pretty perceptive even, being able to identify that the mannerisms of
Eggman Nega!
gives away his disguise as Eggman. Other than those examples, the first game doesn't really do a whole lot with his character. Identifying
Eggman Nega!
based on his mannerisms does help flesh him out a bit more, but it's the only real example of that in this game. Other than that, he's kinda just phoned in as far as his character goes. In Rivals 2, the continuity, as you'd expect, retains itself. No new confusing developments to it, but we do functionally have the same plot again. Eggman Nega is up to no good in the present, and Silver is trying to stop him. This time around, the game is told through paired perspectives, Sonic and Tails, and Knuckles and Rouge. Who do you think Silver is paired with? Maybe Shadow? No, he's paired with Metal, who's just puppeted by Eggman. So, who's left for Silver? Maybe Amy, since they had a connection in 06. Or maybe Blaze, to further smooth things over with the continuity. No, it's Espio. You know, I don't hate this, I just don't know how we got here. Team Chaotix are put on a case to track down why Chows are going missing. Vector decides to send Espio off to investigate Silver, as he remarks that the Chow have started disappearing ever since he showed up. After tailing Silver for a while, he gets spotted, and Silver asks him about the Chows, revealing to Espio that he is the one hiding them, but he's doing so to protect them from
Eggman Nega!
Instead of killing the Iblis Trigger, in this game he's imprisoning the Ifrit Trigger. Character growth. Espio does have reason to doubt Silver, since it's just his word to go off of, but since he witnessed how caring and compassionate Silver was towards the Chows, he believes it. Espio ends up entirely forgetting his job and gets caught up in helping Silver rescue the Chows. Very hilariously, Espio is a bad influence on Silver, as he decides they should rob Tails, to which Silver sees absolutely zero issues with, once again showing Silver's objective-first mentality, not considering to try and cooperate. But unlike 06, where he was faced with a moral dilemma that made him question his motives, he enjoys the act of petty theft.
I finally collected enough rings for Knuckles and Rouge!
Thanks, Half Pint. I'll take those now.
Hey! What are you doing? Come back with my rings!
After Silver and Espio confront and defeat
Eggman Nega!
Silver thanks Espio for his help. Of course, this is while
Eggman Nega!
is pleading for his life trapped under debris.
My legs are caught under this rubble and I can't move!
You reap what you sow, Eggman Nega.
Showing the comedic side of how cold Silver can be when moving on from a now completed objective. While this story isn't the most revolutionary or exciting tale, I'm glad they chose to have pairings this time around. The first game's narrative structure really didn't let Silver's character do anything. Setting him up with someone else helped him actually accentuate his character, and the decision to pair him with someone as seemingly random as Espio helped to flesh him out in a new way. While the titles don't really make much use of his hope or optimism, I think the second one at least adds more to his character. I love Espio, so I was actually glad to see him, even if I was also confused. I enjoy their dynamic even in this game's limited framework. It was nice to see Silver make a new lifelong friend, that he will proceed to never meaningfully interact with again, since this is the last time Silver would ever be involved with a narrative. It's a shame, but I feel as though it's a combination of both 06's reputation, as well as the continuity confusion around Silver that keeps him out of the spotlight. That said, Sega still consciously decides to keep him around, and the longer they handle him this way, the more confusing it gets. Sonic and Shadow have strong characteristics to them that makes them feel almost infallible at times. But Silver isn't really depicted in a similar vein. In fact, he's kind of shown to be pathetic a lot of the time. I don't say that disparagingly though. I'm saying that's part of his charm. It's what makes him stick out from the other two as a character. He's no doubt as remarkably strong as them physically, but he's far more susceptible to his own flaws mentally. He feels more grounded than them. It gives him a sort of underdog appeal that the other two don't really have. While his psychokinetic powers make him super powerful and cool, it's clear through his own faults as a person, he isn't always able to utilize them well, contributing to him still holding this image of an underdog. There's a perfect framing for a narrative around someone with far more potential than others assume of him, with him only needing to figure out how to best apply himself. Silver is a character yet to reach his apex. The structure of 06 makes it pretty clear the three main hedgehogs represent time itself. Shadow represents the past, as it has strong ties to his character motivations. Sonic represents the present, always going forward and living life in the moment to the fullest. Silver represents the future, a bright, seemingly unreachable goal that can always change, something that can always improve. Amy doesn't represent time, but she does represent something very important when it comes to confronting and accepting time as a whole. Compassion, something that leads to accepting the responsibility that we hold for the full spectrum of time, which is why she's a big part of all of them confronting that. She causes Shadow to remember his promise to Maria. She makes Silver reflect on what a future at the expense of another's life really means. She helps to ground all three of them, not letting them be defined by just one point in time. Based on this framing of the hedgehogs, I think it was a deliberate design decision to make Silver a white to Shadow's black. Shadow representing the dark of the past, looming over us at all times, casting a shadow that can be hard to escape from at times. Whereas Silver is practically a source of light himself, even emanating a bright teal aura with his psychokinesis. Despite living through dark times, there's always the chance for a brighter future. He's a figurative and literal beacon of light in that way, an actual manifestation of hope. I see people mention the idea of a Silver Generations, since Shadow got one, and I don't see how that would even be possible. Silver's legacy until now has been understated at best. I think the reality is that they should actually make a new game with the intent to explore Silver in general. It doesn't necessarily have to be framed like Generations to do that. I think we're still a good few entries away from that sort of treatment for Silver. A Silver the Hedgehog game does raise questions though. Silver is constantly used from the perspective of being from the future and returning to the known present timeline. The thing is, what's going on with this ability to time travel? In 06, it's shown that Chaos Control can create a time rift to travel through time if performed by two hedgehogs. Yet, Silver keeps coming back. In Rivals, this is explained by him following
Eggman Nega!
but I don't know how he manages to show up in Forces or every other time that he does. And neither do Sega seem to. It's just an act of God he shows up. Time travel in a narrative is always a fickle thing, especially if it's not even the focus. So including Silver as a focus forces Sega to wrestle with that fact, which they seem intent on never doing. Leaving me to once again ask, why is Silver still around? I absolutely believe Silver should still be here, but while Sega may agree, they clearly don't know why they do. Before this video, I hadn't really known too much about Silver, but after working on this video and looking into him, he ended up becoming my favorite character in the series. He represents unwavering hope and optimistic joy in the world. It's exactly those things that need to be further tapped into to really make him into the character he was always meant to be. Silver's very character has given me hope that he himself has a brighter future ahead of him, despite his handling up to this point only informing the contrary as his fate. After witnessing everything that makes Silver who he is, it only feels natural to come out on the other side holding on to hope, because that's exactly what he as a character represents. The future holds endless possibilities. It's only a matter of heading forward. Since Silver introduces time traveling to the series, it leaves room to tell specific narratives around changing the past itself. In 06, this was used to trick Silver, with him ultimately not going through with it. In the Rivals games, he only comes back in time to chase after
Eggman Nega!
There's an opportunity to tell a story with the actual express intent of altering the past. They could even go so far as actually setting a narrative in the past entirely. 06's story does have them travel to the past for a short time, but it's only in relation to Iblis and Mephiles. A more unique approach would be in focusing on the past and future, the correlation between the two and how those changes impact more than just events. Changing something in the past, only to realize, while he may have saved his friends, as a result, those people don't end up becoming his friends in this newly altered timeline as a result, leading to questioning if things should change. After Shadow Generations built on Shadow's past and touched up on his relationship with Maria and Gerald, they could base a narrative around the early days of Shadow's life to further flesh out these relationships, with the twist being that Silver intervenes to either change the course of history or perhaps ensure that they play out the way they were always meant to. A real chance to tug at the heartstrings, placing Silver in a position where he has to ensure the past remains unaltered. This is just one way to approach a narrative that focuses more on the past, as it can both be a way to develop Silver as well as other characters, something mainline stories have been lacking on. They could base an entire game around Silver traveling to the past with an underlying focus on certain characters at the lowest points in their lives, not only giving more of the cast much needed screen time and development, but also utilizing Silver's characteristic of being a source of hope for others, giving all these characters hope at their lowest point, saving the day without necessarily saving the world from disaster. Alternatively, they could just decide to make an entire game set in the future timeline that is his present. Silver's existence introduces the prospect of just having a future timeline to be wholly explored. With how confusing the continuity around him currently is, setting an entire game in the future gives an opportunity to finally set all the details around him in stone once and for all. only needing to focus on fleshing out the one timeline and keeping the story straight. Not only is there an opportunity to make a game entirely set in this future setting, there's an extremely potent opportunity to make a game that functions conversely to 06, segmenting the story between two set timelines and seeing how events from one affect the other, having certain events in the present story impact events in the future story, without the need to directly go back in time to alter the time frame. I'm really not a big fan of using Silver exclusively to go back in time to fix every problem that happens in his timeline. I want to see him actually have some agency for himself. The end of his story from 06 hinted at that development, but they haven't committed to it, since the game resets itself. Hell, since he's based off Trunks, they could use the Goku Black arc as a basis for a story, while actually employing competent writing, of course. They're bringing our modern cast to the future because they're the only people Silver can rely on to take down such a threat. Although I haven't read much of IDW, I know that in it, Metal Sonic ruined Silver's timeline. Metal Sonic has also historically damned the future before, so there's an actual precedent for using metal in this way, continuing the nature of Sonic repurposing Dragon Ball ideas, creating a Goku Black-like storyline with Metal Sonic. I think it'd genuinely be fitting for a Silver the Hedgehog game to feature Metal as the main antagonist, although I'd actually prefer it to be without the help of Sonic or Shadow. I don't think Silver is meant to be interpreted as a descendant of Sonic, but there's still room for lineage and legacy to be explored with this character, something in line with how he's been sort of left to the wayside by circumstances. Having Silver come into his own and prove himself as someone just as remarkable as Sonic, not just from a narrative perspective, but also as a character that's worth keeping around in this series. Being not only literally forced to reach the same feats as Sonic via matching metal, but also figuratively in becoming someone capable of saving the day himself. Proving himself as a source of hope for everyone, not just from his words, but also from his actions. Silver's current reputation has him poised and ripe with storytelling potential around a coming-of-age story, because he's never truly had his moment at the top. He offers an opportunity to weave in storytelling about how you can't let the past define your future. Something extremely poignant when you consider 06 is nearly 2 decades in the past now, and that failure has kind of defined his place as a character. It's a chance for not only redemption, but for him to shine like he was always meant to, as the dependable radiant beacon of hope that is Silver the Hedgehog.